Welcome Inner Circle and Circle members, paid subscribers of the Transcendent Entrepreneurship Substack. You are here because you signed up and have indeed showed up for this workshop, the Substack Sales Engine. You're in the right place if you are a writer, creative, teacher, healer, coach, or freelancer who is interested in seeing how you might leverage Substack to become part of a reliable revenue generation system. As I was just sharing before we started recording, this is effectively now has become the third in a three-part series that has begun with clients and customers on purpose, and then further unfolded in the how to avoid the niching trap training. And this workshop will review the essential components that we covered in those workshops, and then I'll share how I'm leveraging those concepts, principles, and practices into my Substack sales engine. So in the previous two workshops, we really talked a lot about philosophy and principles. This workshop will apply a little bit more of the strategic, tactical, and tool-oriented components. So what you should do next is I would go ahead and make sure that you're taking notes. I would recommend that you click on the links that I'm going to provide to get you to other resources. And after we're done with the presentation, which I, again, will endeavor to be about 45 minutes. I actually have plenty of time afterward for Q&A. So although we are a small group, I'm happy to hang out for as long as you all need for some Q&A afterwards. So let's dive in. So here is what I call the situation. And this is based on my conversations with people that are in this room that are Inner Circle or Circle subscribers, paid subscribers to the Transcendent Entrepreneurship Substack. Several of you are currently clients, and there's many other clients that are not here. And in those conversations, and with conversations with all of the subscribers that I've been able to speak with, what I have learned is that we have all started our business in part, yes, we want to make a difference. We want to have an impact. We want to do meaningful, fulfilling work with and for people we care about. But we also built our business to fund and fit our ideal lifestyle. And what has most frequently arose is what happens in the pursuit of building a business is that we end up getting caught in this, what I call the compensation obligation equation trap, and it gets all out of whack. So what I mean by the compensation obligation equation is that you are getting compensated in a way that makes sense for the amount of time that you're obligated to be in your business. And what I mean by the compensation obligation equation being out of whack is you're probably spending a lot more time, maybe a lot more money, definitely putting in a lot more effort than you're actually getting compensated for. The return on investment for the investment of your time, attention, money, and effort is not in accordance with the amount that you're investing. And so what ends up happening is as solopreneurs, we get frustrated, we get exhausted, and we quickly find ourselves heading toward burnout and blowing ourselves up. This has certainly been something that I personally have experienced. And we'll be talking about this in an upcoming Substack post. But the problem that we're bumping up against in this compensation obligation equation is that as solopreneurs, our biggest constraint is not that we don't make enough money or that we don't have enough time. Our biggest constraint is that there is actually a limited amount of time, attention, energy, and money available to us. It's not an unlimited supply. We don't have the resources and can't leverage the compounding effect of employees or financial resources to expand the resources of time, attention, and effort. So there's 24 hours in a day. You can only go for so long in any given day. You can only stay focused for so long in any given day. And so if you are doing too many things and spending too much time in your business and not getting a return on investment that is worthwhile, you will get frustrated, you will get exhausted, you will burn out, you will blow up. And so the key takeaway here about the situation is The situation frustrates us because it defies a simple solution. Problems can be solved. Problems are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. And situations are not. But we often get caught up in solutions that treat the situation of solopreneurship as a solvable problem, and it's not a solvable problem. It's a solopreneur dilemma is a bunch of problems that are all added together. And so the challenge is, how do we solve the right problems in the right order at the right time, and so forth. And that's what we're going to talk about a little bit today. So how we arrived at this situation where we are in a situation where we are spending way too much time, way too much effort, maybe too much money spent, and giving too much attention to our business as opposed to the lifestyle that we want it to fund and fit around, is what we addressed in the workshop, I guess 2 weeks ago, called How to Avoid the Niching Trap. The niching trap is a result of what I call the form over function fallacy. What I mean by that is, we've all heard the phrase form over function. And what I addressed in the workshop, and I'll drop the replay link here in the chat in a minute, is that it never actually was expressed as the idea that form is more important than function. It was actually the opposite. Louis Sullivan, the father of the American skyscraper, said, form ever follows function. And meaning the foundation, the utility of a structure comes first, and all the beautification comes afterwards. And he got that idea from a ancient Roman architect named Marcus Vitruvius Pollio, who said that every building needs to be solid, useful, and beautiful in that order. And so when we're talking about niching, we're talking basically about building a business upside down, because niching is not a fundamental philosophy of business. It's not a fundamental principle of business. It's not a fundamental strategy of business. It's a tactic. And if we think about the clarity hierarchy, where tools and tactics are at the top of the pyramid and philosophy and principles are at the bottom, and strategy is the link between the two, if we're starting with niching as a tactic, if that's where we're starting our business, we're building an upside down pyramid. And I don't think it takes much imagination to think about, well, what happens if you build a pyramid upside down? It's not going to be very stable. It's eventually going to come crashing down long before you can get to the underlying principles and philosophy that support that structure. And so in the How to Avoid the Niching Trap training, I talked about how you can invert the process and start with philosophy, start with fundamental principles, construct a strategy, a plan for implementing philosophy and principles through tactics and tools that actually help you collapse time to target and build a business that you want from the ground up, from the foundation up. And so what I showed you I'll illustrate this with a personal example. When I built the business that came to finally earn $10,000 a month, right? This is always the dream, is that we want to build a business that earns us a consistent $10,000 a month. I had the dream, just like everybody else has the dream. And what I did was I followed the advice of digital marketers and online gurus. They said, you have to start with a niche, meaning you have to start with some sort of narrow slice of a market that is defined by demographics and psychographics. And in order to create a niche, you're told that you have to define an ideal customer avatar. This imaginary person that's the perfect customer for whatever it is that you're selling, perfect client for whatever service you're providing. And then after you have an ideal customer avatar, you've established your niche, then you have to construct a funnel that's fueled by, some sort of lead magnet that you promote through content generation, or better said, content grinding on social media, blogs,
There you go.
podcasting,
Okay.
YouTube channels, etc. And then all of that is fueled by some sort of launch schedule. So when you are starting with niching, and when you are starting with ideal customer avatars and funnels which are inherently leaky, content grinding which takes a lot of time, and wasting time scrolling and on social media and getting involved in all these silly DM conversations, you're investing a ton of time, effort, and perhaps money, because it only really works if you fuel it with ad spend in Facebook, YouTube, or Google. You're spending most of your time doing digital marketing stuff and not doing the work that you actually started your business for in the first place, which is why it leads to burnout and blowing yourself up, because you have limited time, energy, and financial resources to invest. So what I showed in the clarity hierarchy is that after I did exactly what I said, built a business upside down, starting with niching and tools and tactics, I decided that I was going to explore on Substack this idea of, how do I build a business from the ground up? How do I start with philosophy and principles? And how do I construct a strategy that is informed by that philosophy and principles, so that I can find the necessary few tactics and tools that will allow me to start collapsing time to target and build a business that funds and fits my life, not the other way around. And so what I shared in the niching workshop was, after I blew up my financially successful business that was killing my soul and burning me out, I decided I would just start talking about things that were important to me philosophically. This is what I believe. And I was sharing ideas that come from Stoicism and the Bhagavad Gita and the Tao Te Ching around the idea of purpose-driven living, living in accordance with your values and virtue, hearing and heeding the call of vocation, not pushing the river, going with the flow. I talked about the virtue of starting with who as opposed to starting with why. All these things that are very philosophical and kind of principle-based. They're the fundamental truths that, although falsifiable, have not yet been falsified. And what ended up happening was, I was attracting readers who resonated with the philosophy and principles, and started to ask me if there was something I could do to help them accomplish a goal that they had, or solve a problem that they had. So strategically, I just started engaging in these conversations with people to learn more about what they were being challenged by, or what they were trying to accomplish, and applied fundamental principles that I had learned from ancient philosophical and spiritual disciplines around reasoning from first principles, micro-stepping, and system reliability and system thinking. And I started to just create these offers and started to work with clients. And over time, I found myself talking to more and more solopreneurs, business owners, freelancers, creatives, writers, teachers, healers. And so what happened, and this is one of the fundamental lessons from this workshop, is the niche emerged from my positioning. My positioning is, this is who I am, this is what I stand for, this is what I believe, this is what I do, this is what I don't do, here are my boundaries and guardrails. And I was attracting people who shared my values and needed my talents and skills to help them achieve aspirations or solve problems. And that has enabled me to build a much stronger, stable business that earns a consistent revenue. And I've talked many times about how I've been able to leverage all of this to earn my annual revenue goal in less than half a year. So that is the lessons from how to avoid the niching trap. When we talk about the clients and customers on purpose, this is where I got a little bit more into the strategy. And so what I arrived at through continuing to just post and interact with the community here on Substack is, I created a simple business system that optimized for conversation. That was kind of my strategy, right? I had this core belief starting at the bottom of the pyramid that I could build a business that expressed who I am, what I'm good at, and where I belong, that didn't have to resort to any digital marketing hacks or tricks to flourish, survive, and prosper. The principles that I built it upon were the idea of reasoning from first principles, system reliability, and micro stepping into possibility, testing and tweaking and iterating and improving as I go in low risk ways that required less effort, less time. And then strategically, it was how do I leverage the power of conversations, human to human connection, to start having conversations with the right people that helped me understand their problems and their aspirations. And then tactically, how do I put my offer in front of the right audience? And what are the tools that I'm using to get those conversations going? And what I arrived at was this idea of a forever offer promise instead of being a power offer or no-brainer offer, which again is part of the usual digital marketing approach. I help X kind of person get X kind of result without doing X kind of thing that they hate to do. I was just My initial forever offer was pretty much I help people get from where they are to where they want to be. And that was good enough for a long time. As it evolved into more of a solopreneurship niche, it became I help solopreneurs optimize their business to fund and fit their ideal lifestyle. And it's been further simplified to solopreneur cornerman. And so this idea of a forever offer is instead of being this explicit, I help a specific demographic, psychographic in a specific domain achieve a specific result without doing a specific thing that they hate. It became just a way of creating intrigue and interest in what I might be able to do for someone by simply showing up and doing my work out loud and in public. And so the forever offer promise coupled with a be a blessing marketing web, which is just having a central place, Substack in my case, for having conversations, but also a distribution channel for sending out these nodes out to social media, YouTube, podcasting platforms, blog platforms, etc. And then the close the gap priority and success path, which is just a system for establishing short-term objectives and very easily defined, effective, efficient success paths for achieving them. And what I arrived at by employing these principles, that now make up the core framework of the purpose-driven prosperity model, is that in order to build a sustainable, prosperous, flourishing business that provides me with lots of fulfillment and joy, is I have this conversational flow that's very straightforward. Icebreaker questions to start a conversation, some sort of free assessment diagnostic conversation to help clarify where someone wants to get to, where they are and what they're starting with, and helping them craft a success path made up of just the 2 or 3 things that need to go right to achieve that goal. Then I lead them into a low ticket continuance conversation, which is the inbox catalyst offer, coaching by email to help them start to craft the path that we arrived at through the diagnostic, which is called a catalyst exchange. And then from the low ticket inbox catalyst, I can move folks into a mid-ticket or high-ticket partnership through either the Voxer Velocity or the Cornerman coaching program. And so those are the specific examples of starting to apply this approach, right? I'm building a business that funds and fits the life I want, that is in alignment with who I am, what I'm good at, where I belong. I'm using the first principles of all I need to succeed in business is I need an irresistible offer. I need to find an audience that's eager for the offer that I have, the solution that I have, or the aspiration I can help them achieve. And I have to have a means of putting that offer in front of that audience, which I have established as a way to start conversations. So let's get into the meat potatoes of how I'm taking all this and leveraging it through Substack. So the reason why I call Substack a sales engine, and that's actually really bad branding, because I'm not a sales person. I think of sales as something that's a naturally occurring, a side effect of actually just delivering value, until someone says, just, is there a way that I can pay you money to help catalyze this process? I would actually think of it more as a Substack client attraction system, or a client attraction magnet. And the reason why Substack is so perfectly positioned for this is, number one, again, very different from the typical digital marketing funnel, which is going to focus on Facebook or YouTube, maybe Google Ads, but it's going to focus on ideal customer avatar, creating content that addresses that ideal customer avatar's pain points based on the niche that you have created for your offer, and then jamming them into some sort of funnel that eventually gets them through false scarcity, urgency, digging into pain to end up on a landing page and decide that they've suffered so enough that they're willing to click that buy now button. That's a typical digital marketing funnel. What's wrong, in my estimation, with operating there, well, there's a lot of things wrong with operating that way, but one of the fundamental problems is that if you're going to be leveraging social media platforms and YouTube and all that sort of thing as your primary way of getting people interested in your offer, you're going to places where people largely go to get distracted. People don't go to Facebook because they want a solution to their problem, or they want to explore and research ideas that are important to them. They go there to fuel their outrage or to watch silly videos as a means of dulling themselves and deluding themselves into thinking that they're doing something worthwhile. Substack is a place people do go to research things that are important to them, to find answers to questions, to find solutions to problems, and to find pathways to achieving aspirations. People collect on Substack, become an audience to a Substack because they are connected through ideas, values, principles, interests, etc. It's much more of a community oriented kind of platform than Facebook, even when you're talking about Facebook groups. And the other thing about Substack that I find very helpful is that, and I say this as someone that leveraged Facebook ads and YouTube ads and Google ads to great effect in terms of being able to get a lot of eyeballs and clicks on my content, is the quality of user, the quality of audience on Substack is so much higher. And my assertion is people come to Substack to read. Readers generally, forgive me, they're smarter, more intelligent, more curious, more receptive, more responsible. They just make a better quality of overall prospect, in my opinion. The other thing about Substack is that it is a distribution platform. It's an all-in-one platform. It gives you what you need for positioning. It gives you what you need for distribution. You can distribute your content through a blog, through a live broadcast, through a podcast, through your email, through notes, and through chat. It gives you all these ways of disseminating the information and the content that you're creating. And it also allows you to send things out to these outposts, right? I can go directly from, take a post directly from Substack to LinkedIn, to Facebook, to Instagram, to Twitter. If I want to play around with Twitter, I can send it to all the podcasting platforms. I can send it to my YouTube channel. I can do all of that within the Substack platform. And so I don't have to spend any time. I don't have to waste any time on social media. And you can do all this without social media at all. I'm in agreement that it would be nice to not have social media in my life, but right now I get enough of a return on investment for the little bit of time I spend there to justify staying there, because it's an outpost that feeds the right people into my subscribership. The third piece about Substack as a worthwhile platform for implementing this philosophically based, principle based, strategic, conversation based approach to attracting clients is it creates concentric circles of connection and helps you filter those people. So in getting the word out, we talked about exposure, proximity, access. Like what you want to do is get people to voluntarily come closer and closer and closer into proximity and access to you and what you can offer. So I can use the distribution channels to create the exposure, the awareness, and earn attention. And then I can leverage the subscriber levels to get people to take deeper steps, closer steps into proximity and access with me. So when someone becomes a free subscriber, I automatically consider them a prospect. They have given me they have trusted me enough to give me permission to have their email address, which means I can communicate with them directly. When someone becomes a free subscriber, I had the opportunity to welcome them to the publication, and I use that. I use my welcome email and the subscriber chat to start icebreaker conversations. I send out a message to every new subscriber. Hey, it's great to have you with us. Thanks for the gift of your time and attention. I'd love to help you if I can. What's the number one thing that you're trying to move forward right now? What's your biggest obstacle? And I have started many conversations with people that have become paid subscribers or clients that way. Bob, you might actually be one of them. I just onboarded a new paid annual subscriber today. And everything started with that icebreaker question in the new subscriber chat. Once someone becomes a free subscriber, I want to elevate those that are a good fit and are ready to become a lead. And I do that by leveraging the paid subscriber and inbox catalyst. And so every post, many of my notes, every podcast, every live includes a soft invitation or soft CTA to join the circle community of paid subscribers, monthly or annual paid subscribers, or to take a bolder step into possibility by getting access to the inner circle community through the inner circle vault, that's all just basically the founder level. I just renamed it. So by putting out this content, free content every Monday, free content frequently on Wednesday, but paid content on Friday, that's paywall, that provides a free preview and a paywall. I create opportunities and invitations and calls to action for free subscribers to decide for themselves that they're ready to upgrade to a paid subscriber, which now qualifies them to me as a lead, someone that's interested, right? I've moved them from a marketing cycle into a sales cycle, because once I've earned their awareness, attention, permission, and trust, and move them into they're interested in learning how I might help them catalyze their ability to close the gap between where they are and where they want to be. They have self-identified as a lead, and I'm going to immediately start to get compensated for some of my time, because a paid subscription is recurring income. And if they come in through the Inbox Catalyst offer, which begins with a free icebreaker question, a free diagnostic, followed by an invitation to continue with a 2-week 5 email exchange to start to craft a path and build some traction, I can get paid for that experience as well. That's a $100 low ticket offer. And people that come in through Inbox Catalyst, almost always, I can't think of a time that it hasn't happened, if they aren't already paid subscribers, they become paid subscribers. And as I'll share in just a minute, many of them go from being a cold prospect, a warm prospect that's interested in what I have to offer, but not yet invested, to being invested as either a paid subscriber and or upgrading to a mid-ticket or high-ticket offer through Vox or Velocity or Cornerman coaching. And that's the final phase, is that once someone becomes a lead, when they have decided for themselves, when they have raised their hand and accepted an invitation to take a bolder step into possibility through a closer level of access through Voxer Velocity or Cornerman coaching, that's how someone becomes a client. So basically, what I'm advocating is you can leverage Substack as a place to stand in a market through positioning as opposed to trying to insert yourself into a market through niching. This is the biggest downside of niching. When you niche, you are saying, I want to fit into a market, and I'm going to fit in by trying to differentiate based on psychographics and demographics. Well, what does that tell you if you're trying to fit into a market? It means the market is already established, which means that you're trying to come into a market where there's competition, where people have a big head start on you, right? If you're trying to insert yourself into a market through niching, you are setting yourself up to spend a lot of time in a very noisy environment where most of the audience is spoken for and or distracted. If you decide to go the positioning route, you're standing in a market where you're saying, this is who I am, and this is what I believe, and this is what I do, and this is what I promise. And you are giving people, instead of trying to trick people out of their time and attention, you are actually attracting the right people to come to you, because the whole point of a forever offer and a Be a Blessing marketing approach is you're not doing any of the usual content grind. You don't have to shoot ads. You don't have to shoot videos. You don't have to do, all you have to do is show up and do your work out loud and in public and let people watch. The right people will reach out to you to learn more. So that's the fundamental differentiator between the approach I'm advocating through positioning and the usual, ideal customer avatar, power offer, niche, launch formula advocated by digital marketers. And then the other thing I'm advocating is the fastest path to cash is through conversation. It's the way that we have always sold products and services. Talking to people, engaging in empathetic, considerate, authentic, transparent conversations with people where you are trying to learn what they're trying to accomplish or what problem they're trying to solve, where they are, what they're starting with, and then helping them make the best decision for them by helping them find that through line, find that path, right? When I talk about the icebreaker to diagnostic to low ticket offer to high ticket offer, it's icebreaker to diagnostic to inbox catalyst, coaching by email to Voxer Velocity or Cornerman coaching. At every step of the way, I'm just doing the work that I signed up to do when I started my business for in the first place. Yes, I'm doing some of that work for free, but I'm spending a lot less time in those conversations than I've ever spent creating content for social media and YouTube. I'm getting better at my craft. I'm boosting my preeminence in my domain, which only makes me stand taller and prouder in the market that I'm positioned in. And by delivering value up front through giving people a clear sense of where they're actually going and where they're actually starting and how they can actually get there, and giving them that all for free, in addition to getting better at what I do, I'm earning goodwill, and that goodwill may pay off in the immediate future through upgrading to Inbox Catalyst and eventually into another program. But even if it doesn't, oftentimes the people, by just leveraging that goodwill ratchet, they will go explore other options. They will find that that everything I told them would happen happens, and they come back because I gave them real value. I told them about the perils of trying to do it yourself or the perils of trying to do it with an online guru or digital marketer. And when they experience what I told them was going to happen, they'll come back and they're even more eager and better trained and more ready to be perfect fit clients. So all of this results in just this virtuous cycle where you never have to feel like you're acting out of alignment with your core values, your guiding principles, where you're not violating your boundaries and guardrails, where you don't have to have conversations with people that aren't a good fit or take on clients that aren't a good fit just because you're desperate for money. So that's, and then I just went over, how Substack helps me do all this. So I have already disclosed that I have done it both ways. Before I set up the business that I have now on Substack, I did everything that the digital marketers and online gurus tell you to do. I created an ideal customer avatar. I defined a niche. I created a power offer. I went through the content grind and the launch formula and exhausted myself and burned myself out and blew myself up. And here are the literal numbers that I've arrived at. When I did things through the traditional digital marketing funnel, I earned an average monthly revenue of $10,000 a month. Now, it took me over a year to get to the point where I was earning $10,000 a month consistently. And I burnt out and blew myself up. I can't remember if it was 6 or 7 months of consistent $10,000 months before I said, I can't do this anymore. I don't like myself. I don't like the people I'm working with. I don't like the work I'm doing. And I basically had a serious existential crisis. And I literally blew up my business and spent a year in the wilderness trying to figure out a better way. And when I say $10,000 a month, I'm not factoring in my expenses. So easily spent $500 a month on Facebook ads during this period. And with all the software and apps that are necessary to execute funnels and email sequences and landing pages and all that kind of thing, that was another $1,500. So that $10,000 a month after expenses actually was reduced to $8,000 a month, at least. I was literally working 100 hours a week at the height of this. So when I hit $10,000 a month, I was working literally $100 a week. Now I don't mean I was sitting at my computer grinding out content and doing all that 100 hours a week, but I was definitely on from 5 in the morning until I went to bed at 9 at night. If an email came in after 5 o'clock in the evening, I was answering it. If a customer question was coming through, I was answering it. And I'll just disclose that I didn't sleep very well, even when I was asleep. And I didn't enjoy my life very much when I wasn't working because I was always wondering about things that were happening at work. So on average, that comes down to about $23 an hour is what I was making. I was making $10,000 a month, working 100 hours a week at $23 an hour. The conversion rate on that funnel was 2%. And 2% is high for a digital marketing funnel. Digital marketers talk about split testing the colors of buttons to get a 0.03% change in conversion rate. I mean, that's how small the game is. And these are numbers just from the last 3 months. So one of the things I did when I decided to start over was I did a recapture and reallocate audit of my expenses. And my wife and I figured out that we didn't actually have to make $120,000 a year to survive or to live well. That because of where we live and because we don't carry any debt, we could live very comfortably on half of that. So I made that my number. Like I have to earn $60,000 a year. And for the last 2 years, I've been able to achieve that number, not just through this system that I'm sharing with you, but through other endeavors as well. But I make my annual revenue goal usually sometime in June. At least I've done that for the last 2 years. So what I have done is I've just looked at the last 3 months. Since I hit my annual revenue goal, I've looked at what I've earned and how much time I've spent and how much expenses I've had. And what I've done over the last 3 months is I've earned $5,000 a month. I'm not spending any money on ads. I've gotten rid of almost all of my software and apps. The only one I have left is Kajabi and Calendly. And altogether, that's less than $100 a month. I spend literally 10 hours a week in my business, which means I'm earning $116 an hour compared to $23 an hour. I'm working 90% less hours than I was working when I was trying to be a full-time digital marketer. And I shared this, all the numbers in the clients and customers on purpose. So I'll leave it to you to find the numbers there, but I'm happy to share them if you have trouble believing this. But my conversion rate on someone going from requesting the icebreaker questions or answering the icebreaker questions to buying a Voxer Velocity or Cornerman coaching offer, my conversion rate is 20%. And that number is going up because I'm actually implementing a new campaign that I will teach you another time called a second chance campaign, where people that didn't buy the first time are given a chance to buy again, because sometimes people don't buy because it's just not the right time, or they're just not ready, or they just don't believe you quite yet. So my second chance campaigns are bringing this number up fairly quickly. All right, so this is what I'll leave you with. I'll go ahead and I'll take a minute to drop all the links in here for you. I am right now dropping a note into Substack, and what I would love for you to do, and you don't have to do this right this second, but this link will take you to a Substack note where I'm simply asking you to drop your biggest lesson, aha, or takeaway from this workshop. And in exchange for dropping a comment or a question or a complaint, I don't care what you drop there. I just care that you drop something there. I'll get you the immediate access to this replay. I will also send you the presentation notes that we just went through. If you want to take what I've just shared with you and do a DIY approach to it, do it on your own, I would strongly encourage you to revisit the core frameworks, which are in the vault for the inner circle members. That's the curated experience of the Forever Offer framework, the Be a Blessing Marketing framework, and the Close the Gap framework, along with the other workshops that we've done that come with presentation notes, worksheets, or workbooks, and GPT prompts to put into the Cornerman GPT. But for those of you that are circle members, if you look up Vault, the Transcendent Solopreneurship Substack, you'll find available replays of all the core frameworks. So you can take that and also the previous two workshops. Again, I'll drop those replays here in just a minute. But the clients and customers on purpose workshop and the how to avoid the niching trap workshop. If I truly believe that if you understand the core frameworks, and if you review and apply the principles in clients and customers on purpose and how to avoid the niching trap and this workshop, that you could literally optimize your business to make more money in less time with less effort and a lot more fulfillment and alignment on your own. If you would like to have a more curated experience, you're welcome to reach out to me about availability in the Voxer Velocity or the Cornerman coaching program. And that is the end of the official presentation.